and believe it or not, I have a few. Friends trade with each other on a balanced and fair basis. I'm glad to have another hearing focused on their trade relationship with China. We recently we saw a phenomenal event at Mar-a-Lago, the total capitulation to President Xi on all economic issues. So much else was going on in the world that the press didn't bother to cover it. But the fact is that a president that promised to be tough on China trade let President Xi go home thinking we would do absolutely nothing. Now, supposedly, this is in return for a promise that China is going to help us with regard to North Korea. First, what kind of friend needs to be bought off with American jobs in order to stop subsidizing and supporting a lunatic that wants to develop the capacity to incinerate American cities? That is not something that we should have to pay for in American jobs. But second, China isn't doing it. The refinement of uranium and creation of plutonium continues in North Korea. The missile tests take place every time there's the anniversary of one of the leader's forebearers. And China delays the purchase of 1 or 2 trains of coal. Of course, the country with perhaps the most polluted urban areas in the world when it comes to air might want to cut back on its coal imports anyway. This is an utter capitulation to China in return for basically nothing, and certainly nothing that has made us safer. We're the global leader in technology and science. The recent budgetary proposals to cut back on scientific development aren't going to help that. China's Made in China 2025 proposal is designed to make the trade balance even more unbalanced by replacing those products that they import from us and exporting more to us. China's trade practices include, first and foremost, a rejection of the concept that there should be fair and balanced trade with the United States, and include historic currency manipulation, propping up state-owned enterprises, intellectual property theft, forced technology transfer, dumping, barriers to importation, non-transparent trade laws and regulations, subsidies leading to overcapacity, et cetera, et cetera. Now, we had a $310 billion trade deficit with China. This is the largest persistent trade deficit in the history of the world. In 2015, it was $336 billion. And we are told by the Washington, Walmart, Wall Street axis a variety of things. First, we're told it doesn't matter. Well, it does, because every billion-dollar trade deficit translates into losing 10,000 jobs. We're told our unemployment rate is low. Our unemployment rate is not low enough to create the labor shortage necessary so that Wall Street has to raise wages. And until we see a massive increase in wages, we need every good job we can get, and every $1 billion of unbalanced trade is 10,000 jobs. We're told that the trade deficit stems from a fair system, and that, of course, is absolutely false. And we now see that with advanced technological products, where China should be importing more from the United States, we ran a $114 billion trade deficit with China last year. And it's only going to get worse. Now, as to its practices, China's co-production agreements. I mean, if China were to say there's a 20% tariff on planes sent from the United States to China, oh, we'd say, oh, that's a tariff. But if instead they say you can't sell a single plane until you build a fuselage factory here in China, we say, oh, we don't know what to make of that, so we'll ignore it. Co-production agreements are the theft of jobs, and with regard to China, the theft of intellectual property. We allow them because the Wall Street, Walmart, Washington axis does not support the American working family. We can go on and look at the General Motors situation where we can't sell cars there unless we move the factories there. And I've talked about how Boeing is set to open up its first factory line in China, not because of fair economics, but because we're not able to sell planes in China unless they extort that from us. So one would have to wonder on what basis we claim that China has given us most favored nation status. So what's Trump going to do about it? He won the Midwest from Pittsburgh to Milwaukee, saying he was going to solve this problem. Current law allows him to impose, depending on 10%, another 15%, another 15% tariffs on Chinese imports, or to threaten to do so. He has done neither. The trade deficit is running today as it has run in the past. There was a blip because of Chinese New Year's, but that's a blip we would expect every time there's a Lunar New Year. So he's got the power, and the most obvious thing he can do is designate China a currency manipulator. Now you can say, well, maybe they're not manipulating the currency today. How many factories have they built? What competitive advantage have they stolen from the currency manipulation in the past? Since when are you not a currency? That's like saying, I didn't murder anybody today, therefore I'm not a murderer. They benefit from their past currency manipulation. So the president told us he'd do something. He campaigned, when it came to China, he campaigned with a big mouth, and he governs with small hands. I yield back.